Wilson. I'm a master gardener and composter with Santa Clara County, and I volunteer at Marshall Cottle Park. This morning, I'm going to be talking with you a bit about how to make a miniature compost bin for worms. Fancy name is Vermicomposting, and it's made within this tennis tube that we've created as their new home. We've put all kinds of holes in it for aeration, top, sides, and bottom, and we'll be filling it with all the good things that the worms need to be composting and breaking it down. The worms that break it down are red wigglers. They're specific. They are not an earthworm. They live in the top layer of the soil. They're part of the rot squat. They help break things down, decomposing. We're going to add things like this within our tennis tube worm bin to be giving food for the worms, for them to be breaking down and making us compost. First thing we're going to do, as you can see the sprayer here, I'm going to moisten shredded paper, and it can either be office paper or newspaper, but not glossy paper. The worms, that's not good for the worms. Once you have it about as moist as a wrung out sponge, you'll add about 2 inches in a layer at the bottom of your mini worm bin. Then you add in your worms. Here's some individual worms, and here's a whole group. And a group of worms is called a squirm. Now you're going to start adding in that feedstock. The first picture I showed you is the food that you're going to give the worms. So I have a lovely combination of strawberries and green beans and all kinds of food scraps here, some lettuce, and that'll be the layer that goes on top of the worms, because they will go towards the top to be eating it. I'm going to add in a little bit of, this picture's an eggshell, and inside it I've pulverized, ground up, smushed a bunch of eggshells. And this is coffee grounds. This provides what's called grit. It serves 2 purposes. It helps the worm as it moves through the food and the bedding, and it also eats some of it to help it break down with its food, because worms don't have teeth. The worm takes it in its mouth here, and it goes into its gizzard and craw, and that helps break down the food. And here's the little bitty bristles of the setae that are what help it move through the grit that's within the food to eat its delicious meal. You can also add in on top there some of the moistened coffee filters in addition to your coffee grounds you put in. You're layering on up now. You're going to, almost to the top, you're going to add some more of the moistened shredded paper, and then the very top layer is going to be dry newspaper, because that helps absorb some of the extra moisture that takes place within the tube. Here's what a finished worm bin looks like. I left an eggshell hole in there so you could see it. You can see we're sitting it on a tray here. Remember we put holes in the bottom? That moisture that goes through will come out the bottom, and that's got a special name. It's called leachate. It's some of the juices that came from all the fruits and vegetables and the waste products, and that you can actually dilute and add to your plants to water them, and it adds a little bit of extra nutrition. Once we have our worm bin filled, we need to put it in the dark. Worms prefer to be in the dark. They don't like the light. So you can cover your mini worm bin with either a dark piece of paper, or this one's got its COVID mask on. And if you're doing it at home, you may have an old sock. A dark sock works really well. Just to slide it on there. It's just anything you can do to help keep the worms in the dark so they feel safe and will do their work in decomposing and breaking down the food you fed them into compost. So you can even use a COVID mask like I showed in the last thing, a bandana to wrap around your worm bin. Once your worm bin has been established for about 3-4 weeks, you'll start getting these darkened material at the bottom of it, and on top of it you see these little seed looking things. Here they are. I took them out and put them. Those are worm cocoons. There's your cycle of life. Here's the babies. There's usually 3 to 5 worms per little cocoon. And there they are once they've hatched. Whole bunch of, a swarm of baby worms. And they're continuing to do their job. So we go from all that lovely paper and feedstock to all the worm castings. And they'll be at the bottom of your bin, and they look like this. And here's the end product that these worms provide for us. These are worm castings. It's worm poop, but the fancy name is casting. This is a wonderful soil amendment. You can use it when you're potting your plants or planting your plants in the ground. Just dig it in. You can put it on top of your house plants and water it in. It's another way that the nutrients can get through. It's a delightful product for that. I'm going to show a couple of examples of different worm systems that are larger. Here we're mixing in all the feedstock into a larger worm bin. Here I am watering the top layer so that it stays moist, because remember, we need our worms' environment to stay moist. They breathe through their skin, so they need that moisture to help them breathe. And here's two different examples. Here's a round one, and here's a rectangle one. The shape doesn't matter, just gives you some different ideas. These, as you can see, have layers to them that you would be building to add your feedstock to as your worm castings grew. Thank you for your time, and I really hope you enjoy building your own mini worm bin.